Happy Monday. It's Father Jonathan coming to you again as you head into your work week or whatever your week looks like, and as we enter into this, as we continue to enter into this pandemic and try to figure out our place in the world amidst all the chaos, well aware that it's not over, and the world is still a very challenging place. And with all that being said, this sort of chaotic world that we live in, I'd like to talk maybe today just briefly about the practice of contemplation and about taking on a disposition of what Martin Laird, the Augustinian friar and spiritual writer, would call being a person that's receptive. And I'm paraphrasing him a little bit there, but taking on a disposition of receptivity as opposed to being a reactive person. So first, the contemplation. I think there's a lot of Christians out there, a lot of Catholics, that think that contemplation, that type of prayer, is reserved specifically for professed religious monks, nuns, and maybe priests. But most spiritual writers would argue that that's not the case at all, that human beings by their very nature are made to be contemplative, and quite simply put, to spend time in the presence of God, receiving God, or at the same time uncovering God's presence that's already within me. It's not about pursuing God, it's about sitting in quiet and allowing God to come into me, allowing God to pray in me, and therefore unlocking God's existence that's already in me, if that makes any sense. The other thing that Christians are probably thinking is, why? Isn't it kind of a waste of time to sit before a God who knows exactly what I'm thinking anyway, who knows everything that's on my mind, if we believe that, and sit there for half an hour? Well, what's the point? Well, aside from the fact that it's been proven that meditation and modern psychology is good for the mind and body, well, contemplation is good for the mind, the body, and more importantly, the soul. If I take time every day, half hour, maybe every day, maybe 20 minutes, and sit in quiet and just simply sit in the presence of God, receiving the divine and allowing the divine to be unlocked in me, I become more and more of a loving person. Well, how does that work? Well, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I become a receptive person as opposed to a reactive person. Through the practice of contemplation, through that time every day, taking that time, sitting in quiet, receiving God, then I go out into the world. And instead of going out into the world, as we are this Monday, going out to all the chaos that the world is, as opposed to going out as a reactive person, looking for the next fight, looking for the next person I'm going to have an issue with, looking for the next conflict, looking for the next person that's going to rub me the wrong way, well, through contemplation and the practice of that, I become a receptive person. That changes everything. Now, the encounters that I have, the more I practice contemplation, the more I pray with God, I seek to receive people in the world as opposed to reacting towards them. And I think we can all agree that we live in a very reactive world. We're walking around with our fists up, ready for the next fight, ready to react because somebody has something against us, or because someone rubbed us the wrong way, or because we have a point to get across. We're ready for that fight. Well, that's not really what a Christian is supposed to be doing. Rather, we're supposed to be receiving the world around us. The next person that comes to us with all their burdens and baggage and all their woundedness. We recognize our woundedness and we receive them as they are, as opposed to reacting towards them. And that's when kinship and communion begin to take place, and then the ability for me to reach out to the other in a loving manner. Contemplation allows me to let those guards down that react to the world, and it trains me to receive the world and to receive each and every encounter that I have with the world and with other people has the opportunity for an encounter with God, for an encounter with Jesus Christ. Now imagine if Christians all over this country, or all over the world for that matter, began to take on this receptive disposition through contemplative prayer. Imagine how the world would change. Conflict would start to go by the wayside. Anger, bitterness, hatred, bigotry, all these things would start to disperse as you would see disciples out in the world longing to receive the other as opposed to picking a fight with the other. We would come to a greater understanding of mutuality, of communion, and we would see the other as they are, as another one to be loved, as the image of Jesus Christ. And so my plea to you this week is to maybe try this practice of contemplation. And it's nothing more than sitting in quiet for maybe 20 minutes, making the sign of a cross, genuflecting or something like that, recognizing you're in God's presence, and then just receiving God. The more I receive God, the more I'm willing to receive those that I encounter, and the more I become an instrument of peace in this world. I think this is something we all need, and I encourage you to give it some serious thought and to maybe take that leap into the world of contemplation. May God's love be with you always. I hope to see you all very soon. Take care, be safe, and God bless.